Hello students, I'm Himani Sharma, your UGC NET educator. In this new YouTube video, we are going to move forward with the Paper-II English Literature per se. So before jumping on to directly what we are supposed to do in today's video, I have an important announcement to make. We are going to start from the 10th of July with Paper-II English Literature from UGC NET. And of course, there are other courses for Paper-I, Teaching and Research Aptitude, which is again going to start from the 10th of July, and Paper-II for Political Science. If you have any doubts, you can reach out and you can click on the link which is given in the description, below in the description box. Now, coming back here again in this very particular video, the writer of note, the poet of note that we are going to cover in the concept series today is Jeet Thayil, a contemporary poet, right? We are going to first of all see his image, and there is not much poetry available of his, but of course, because of him being a contemporary poet, we are going to delve deep, not that much, but of course, talk about him from the superficial ground to see if any question can be asked in the NET examination. We all need to be prepared for that as well. Now, he was born in the year 1959 in Kerala. This is his image, and he is alive, of course. So born in Kerala, was a drug addict, and he has, talked about this very thing, talked about him being a drug addict for years and years in his interview with Hindustan Times, where he told them that yes, he was suffering from that particular thing, but then he left it. Or an Indian poet, novelist, librettist, and a musician. He likes to play guitar a lot. In 2012, his poetry collection, These Errors Are Correct, was awarded the Sahitya Academy Award for English. So, of course, as I already always put emphasis on this very particular thing, that yes, you all are supposed to memorize that Sahitya Academy Awards are given to different writers. You all should be knowing this particular thing. So, he won These Errors Are Correct, right, in the year 2012, from the Sahitya Academy Award. There are other poetry collections of his which we all should be noting down per se. Number one is Gemini, correct? And again, I have tried to provide you this in a chronological sense. So whenever you're making your own notes, if you have your pictographic memory there, when you're preparing for the examination, you know pehle kya tha, baad mein kya tha. First one is Gemini, 1992. Second is Apocalypso, correct? Third is English. And fourth one is These Errors Are Correct, which was published in the year 2008. And in the year 2012, it was awarded with the Sahitya Academy Award. All right. So this was something of note. Moving ahead, he has also been an editor to different things. He was the editor of The Divided Time, which has a subtitle, India and the End of Diaspora. He tries to talk about certain things, and he was editing this very particular book, which was published in the year 2006. The Blood Axe Book of Contemporary Indian Poets, published in the year 2008. He had been an editor to that very particular thing. And 60 Indian Poets, again published in the year 2008. So, apart from being just a poet, apart from being a novelist, he had been an editor as well, and he was a musician, as I already told you, correct? His first novel was Narcopolis, published in 2012, and he also has been the author of other two novels. So, first of all, 2012 wali you guys write, then write The Book of Chocolate Saints, because it was his second novel published in the year 2017. And then at the time of the COVID, he got the novel Low, published in the year 2020. So again, we are going to write it here in the chronological sense, and I hope you guys write it too. Narcopolis, 2012, right? The Book of Chocolate Saints in the year 2017, and the third one being Low in the year 2020. So 1, 2 and 3. Hope things are clear to you all till now, correct? Now, themes and style. So what are the themes? What is his writing style? If we read his poetry, feelings and emotions, he tries to relate with them. He has introduced these very particular things, concerned himself with the pleasures and pains of drugs, alcohol, sex and death, which are emblematic of Keats and Charles Baudelaire. So we see he himself has been a drug addict. So we have seen that how even if we draw a reference to this British writer, if you can memorize or recall the name who has written, Thomas Quincy, who has written The Opium Eater. He was a person who used to be so high on opium, who was an opium addict. So, of course, he was writing about drugs and what are the pleasures and pains which one gets after having opium. He was talking about that in particular book. Same is the case with Jeet Thayil. Thayil keeps on writing about drugs, alcohol, because he had been in that very particular position and he could relate and talk about it, and hence he writes about it. Draws deeply on the life experiences from which many would not recover. Even if I see that him being a drug addict, he got out of that very particular situation, which is a sense of motivation and inspiration for all people who are stuck there, right? Unintentionally or intentionally. There has been a criticism, of course. If a writer is writing something, people will critique him. So we are going to read from Vijay Sheshadri, who has been a poet as well, who said that Thayil is contemporary precisely because he has such command of the poetic and the historical past, and because his invented language has such depth, archaeological richness and reality. The way he talks about history, the way he talks about reality, the way he talks about that in his invented language, right, with which we can relate, correct? That can be seen, and this has been talked about. This particular quote has been, given by Vijay Sheshadri. Now we are going to talk about his novels. Number 1 is Narcopolis, published in the year 2012, shortlisted for the 2012 Man Booker Prize. And of course, it delves into the deeper underbelly of the Bombay slums, which is now Mumbai, exploring themes of addiction, love and the complexities of human existence, the relationships that people have. So in Narcopolis, we get these particular themes that how in Mumbai, the drug abuse is there, correct? So he talks about that particular thing. Backdrop of the city's opium dens. The narrative unfolds over several decades as the story keeps on moving forward, tracing the lives of a diverse cast of characters. So the characters also develop with time. And we see with the development of the novel as it proceeds further that how in these opium dens, if things are, of course, if drugs are circulated, things are moving there, how the characters deal with those particular things, the human existence that he talks about in here, and the complexities, how they deal with love, how they deal with the addiction that they have, correct? The story begins with the arrival of Dom Ulis, an outsider drawn to the allure of Bombay's drug scene. So this is first character who is drawn to Bombay and its beautiful scenery which is there. Through his eyes only, we witness the lives of the opium house regulars. Who are the people who have opium time and again through the course of the novel? Number 1 is Rashid, who is the owner of the establishment from where this particular drug, opium, is circulated. Dimple, a eunuch prostitute who is there, of course. Third is Rumi, a former Chinese immigrant who becomes his closest companion. So through the eyes of Dom, we see that how the establishment ruler, which is Rashid, how the eunuch, which is Dimple, and the third Rumi, how these three people, how they also develop, how they suffer with the complexities which are there in the course of the novel. So this is the cover page. Then we have the Book of Chocolate Saints, published in the year 2017, fictionalized account of a true story. So Thayil knew about this particular story which happened in reality, so he gave a fictional touch to that particular story by changing names or doing something to the particular novel. So the Book of Chocolate Saints is scathing and witty about whitewashing and sainthood in the literary world that we have. So this is the particular first page, the cover page of the novel, the Book of Chocolate Saints. Winner of the DSC Prize for South Asian Literature, winner of the Sahitya Akademi Award, already told you, right? And finalist for the Man Booker Prize. Thayil's protagonist is a dissolute, once brilliant man. What is the name of the protagonist? Francis Newton Xavier. So we see this is the first character that we are introduced with, who is the main character, the protagonist of the story, the Book of Chocolate Saints, an Hungarian painter. And he's a poet as well, who has lost sight of his Indian roots and become more English. So we are seeing that Francis Newton Xavier was an Indian by descent, was living in the Indian society, was having the Indian ways, but now he shifted and moved towards learning the English ways, and now he feels that he has become more English than the denizens of Oxford and London with whom he rubbed shoulders. Francis Bacon and Muriel Belcher among them. So this account tells that Francis Newton Xavier, he had met Francis Bacon and Muriel Belcher, who were there in the University of Oxford, and he says that I feel like I'm more English than them. Comparison are invited between Xavier and other Anglo-Indian authors such as Naipaul, Salman Rushdie, at times mischievously so. So this could be asked as a question that with what other writers the comparison of the protagonist of the novel, the Book of Chocolate Saints, have been drawn. So we know it's Salman Rushdie and B.S. Naipaul. There is no literary remarque left. What do we mean by a remarque left? That is, of course, this is not a novel with the key. Though Thayil has candidly discussed the book's autobiographical element, remarque left is basically the writer, the people who are there in a novel, they are referring to someone else. So there is no remarque left here. There will be certain true writers who have been there, let's just say for D.H. Lawrence, and if he has been, his personality has been described fictionally in a novel, his name will be changed. So that will be called a remarque left, a novel with the key to know that this particular character which is talked about in the novel is referred to D.H. Lawrence. And the dedication to the Indian poet Dom Morais suggests that he too has been an influence on this very particular novel. Correct? So this was what we were supposed to cover when it comes to Jeet Thayil and his novels and poetry and the themes and styles that we see in his particular works. There has not been much description which is provided on the internet. Hence, we are just supposed to do as much as is required from the net perspective. I'll see you again in another video with another concept. Thank you so much and have a good day.